Hi Harmonia, this is Marty, and I thought it might be helpful to go over the structure of the piece that we're going to do, especially if you have to miss some of the rehearsals. So again, just to recap, there are three parts. The singers will be divided into three groups, and that's just kind of your home base, although you certainly can sing in some of the other parts too, if you wish. So the first thing that happens is quite slowly, just ignore that tempo indication. The third part is going to start like this. Do, 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 do. And while they're doing that, people who are in parts 1 and 2, so not part 3, you guys could sing along with that. You sure could. You also could be making some bird noises, or you could be moving the puppets or doing some other movement to be decided. So I'm going to be there, and I'm going to try to communicate with kind of the captains of each of the groups, and at a certain point you'll see me holding up a one finger, and that means that we need to move on to section 1 that you'll see here. So in section 1, the people who are in part 1 will start singing, and so we'll have, and this is helpful if you listen to the recording a little bit, you'll see these overlapping parts come together. But again, part 3 is still singing, doo, doo, but this other higher part will come in, doo, doo, that will happen for a while. Now again, we haven't seen anybody from part 2 sing anything yet. So part 2, you could be improvising with bird calls and whistles. You also could be helping any of the other 2 parts. Again, at a certain point, you will see me hold up a 2 finger, and at that point, part 2 finally gets to come in and sing something. And their part is just some notes in a scale, not all of them. You have a bit of a skip here. And that part, again, I'll play sort of the bass repeating line. And part 2 will come in. Sorry, I held that too long the first time I sang it. So just this short phrase and then a break and then the short phrase again. And again, you'll just repeat that over and over again while people are taking turns with moving with the puppets. And if some people can break off and do a little bird song if you like, you don't have to. So this may seem like not that much is happening, but it will end up being almost like a meditation. So moving on to the second page, you will see my fingers go up with a 3 sign, and at that point, everybody is still, well, part 1, you're still doing your hoo-hoo. Part 3, it would probably be great if somebody stayed with the doo-doo, but it gives you a chance, finally, a turn, part 3, to break off and do some bird whistles or little clicks or different types of birds sounds. Meanwhile, part 2, you're going to start still doing the same bottom line, but you're doing it without the big break in between. So we have the low line, if it's still there, do, 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 do. And part 2 is now do, oh, wee, 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 oh, wee. Probably I'm going a little bit faster than it will be. After you do that a number of times, I'll probably be standing with the part 2 people, and I will give you a signal to break into these harmonies. So we would have oh, we, oh, we, oh, we, oh, we. And the top part oh, 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 we, oh, we, oh, we, oh, we. And that happens a number of times. And then again, I'll be communicating pretty closely with this part 2 group. But when you see the signal come out for 4, we've moved on to this 4th section. And again, part 1, you're just hanging on to your oh-ohs like that. We'll potentially have people in part 3 sticking with the doo-doos. But when part 3, you hear the part 2 people switch and start doing this, you don't even have to come in the first time around. It's okay, you can join in when you want to, but we'll try to get some communication so that when part 2 switches to this part, it's answered by the part 3 singers, and that continues as a call-in response. Now, at this point, also, the people doing part 1, you guys don't have to stick to the same, it's still the same rhythm of short, long, but you could start overlapping it a little bit. So your little sentence has been, but you could sing instead, mix it up. So we have this descending scale that I talked about, and then when the signal for 5 comes up, basically what happens is the oohs are still going, but we're going to start sort of bringing things down. So the scales will fade out. I'll again give that signal to stop singing the scales, and the people on parts 2 and 3 will move into doing your improvised bird whistles, or you could still be doing the doo-doo part on the bottom if you wanted to. And again, we have the oohs in part 1, sort of ad-lib. But once we get to 5, you're going to start thinking about fading things out so that eventually, very slowly, most of the musical singing departs the stage, and we have most people doing some bird whistles. So depending on how much time that takes, we will then go all the way back to the beginning and do that whole thing again. And then to end, we will work on, when we come to do it a second time, when we get to this number 5 a second time, we will hopefully have people actually leave the church area, leave the performance area gradually, so that by the time we finish, everyone has just kind of disappeared and we're left with just the recorded bird song. So I don't know if that is very helpful. To me, it's more helpful to look at things visually together a little bit and know what the structure is, especially if you weren't able to make it to a rehearsal. I think that even if a few people sort of know the parts and can lead the rest of the singers who perhaps didn't have a chance to come or haven't looked at this, that's okay. I think it's going to be just amazing. So this was a very rushed and awkward video. If you've lasted all 9 minutes, congratulations, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.